never had more fun than I'm having now. And my retirement motto is, I have a lot to learn, but nothing left to prove. And so,
very nice. Mitch, what do you think led to that? I mean, I don't want to call it nirvana, or I don't, but it sounds like you've got a pretty good gig in a pretty good situation. What can you attribute that to? Anything that you can share with our audience?
You've just heard Mitch Handelsman from the University of Colorado at Denver. Eric had the opportunity to sit down with Mitch for this 236th episode of Psych Sessions, conversations about teaching and stuff. MHS, a sponsor of Psych Sessions, is providing a free ADHD webinar. From one person to another, ADHD can look pretty different between youth and adults over the course of a lifespan. And our understanding of ADHD and the ways that we support people are evolving too. So join MHS for Unmasking ADHD, Practical Strategies to Empower Youth and Adults. This is a free webinar series upcoming for psychology students and faculty and school and clinical psychologists who want to better recognize ADHD. These sessions will explore executive function, the impact of ADHD across the lifespan, the overlap with autism, and the role of performance validity testing. You can hear from leading experts, including Dr. Jack Naglieri, Dr. Elizabeth Sparrow, Dr. Sam Goldstein, and Dr. Cecil Reynolds, as they share practical tools, real cases, and the latest research to support your studies or practice. So whether you're in the classroom or working in a clinic or just beginning a career, this series will equip you with strategies to make a meaningful difference. You can reserve your spot at mhs.com/ADHD-webinar-series-2025. That is mhs.com/ADHD-webinar-series-2025. And you can join a community committed to improving lives through a better understanding of ADHD.
Hi, I'm Bridget Hard, a professor of the practice at Duke University. And I'm a member of STP because it is filled with an incredible community of people who really share my passion for teaching. For me, STP is home. It's a sense of family and friends, people who inspire me, people who give me lots of great ideas for all the different challenges that I face as a teacher. And this community is waiting for you. You can join STP at teachpsych.org.
Hey everyone, Garth here. Thanks for listening to Psych Sessions. If you could go to wherever you listen to our podcast and you would follow that podcast or like it, it really does help us as we are trying to get out to more teachers of psychology. Also, if you haven't checked out our website, please visit psychsessions.org and sign up for our monthly newsletter. We offer free resources and valuable news that you are going to want to know related to the teaching of psychology. Thanks.
We're back for another episode of Psych Sessions, conversations about teaching and stuff. And I feel like every introduction I do, I say the same thing, but I mean it, or I really mean it this time. I am so thrilled to have with me a colleague, and I'm going to call him a friend. I don't know how he feels about that. He doesn't have to say it back. It's okay. But I'm here with Mitch Handelsman from the University of Colorado at Denver. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Eric, I am honored and happy to be here, and also honored and happy to be your friend.
Well, let's just call it a day right there, and it'll be the shortest Psych Sessions episode ever. So it's honestly, it's great to see you. We were just getting caught up a couple seconds ago. Here's where I want to go right away. If it's the University of Colorado, Denver, why is it CU? Help me with that. I'm confused by that. It confuses me.
You know, it's been really nice. I think it was an accident, but it's been really nice because we've had like 12 different mottos and PR logos and stuff like that. And so it's like, see you in the city, that kind of thing.
Oh,
so it's, I don't think it was designed for that, but the PR department took advantage of that.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? The mottos and logos history of any institution. I mean, we used to be real education for the real world. And, there was a competition about 15 years ago for our new logo. And there was a student competition, and the university didn't pick any of those, but Nike was able to provide us with a logo and happily sold us uniforms matching that logo. So,
yeah, well, let's not underestimate, because I went to KU for graduate school because of the little bird, the little Jayhawk. It was the cutest logo I'd ever seen.
Let's put a pin in that, because I do want to come back to your grad school.
No, put a pin in the bird. I don't think that's. I don't think that's a good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, for our audience, for Mitch and I, we've met. All right, so just so people understand that. No, we don't want to. I want to put a pin in the topic. Thank you for helping me be more clear. So I'm going to ask you the question that I get asked a lot. And if you don't want to go there, we don't have to go there.
Okay.
So how's that retirement plan looking?
Yeah.
Do you get asked that a lot? Because I do. I'm serious. I do.
I do. And I've been thinking about it. I mean, it's a constant thought, right?
Yes, it is.
My age. I don't know. I think I might be older than you. So
I think you're a smidge older. I'm 62.
Okay, I'm 70. I just hit 70.
No.
Yeah. So that's more than a smidge, because I could have retired 15 years ago. And so it's been, once I hit 70, it's like all these like societal expectations and
right.
And everything that happens either gets me closer to retirement or further away. Right. So, that's the beginning of my plan.
Do you find that either closer or further away varies by the day and by the hour? Because it does for me.
Sometimes by the minute. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But when I go into class and I come out of class saying, next year I should make this little tweak. And it's like, I keep having those thoughts rather than, oh my God, what am I doing here? And the other issue is I'm in a nice environment, because the people I talk to about retirement, colleagues, sometimes they'll say, oh, you can't retire. We need you here. And that's amazingly sustaining,
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's sustaining, that helps.
Oh, that you're needed. And we can't do it without you, kind of thing.
Yeah. And who knows how, how much they mean it, but, it's a nice thing to say. And the people around me are by and large, really nice people. And, so the job has never been better. I've never had more fun than I'm having now. And, my retirement motto is, I have a lot to learn, but nothing left to prove. And so
very nice. Mitch, what do you think led to that? I mean, I don't want to call it nirvana, or I don't, but it sounds like you've got a pretty good gig in a pretty good situation. What can you attribute that to? Anything that you can share with our audience?
Luck, of course, is the primary. I think the primary variable.
Oh, okay. We'll circle. I'm going to put a pin in that too. I'll come back to luck here in a moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as I would tell my students, effort would be another. Excellence.
So you got a little behaviorist equation going there. Luck plus effort equals right. Something else.
I'm not sure I want to get that quantitative, but yeah, I've always felt privileged to be in this kind of position.
Sure.
To be an educator. And CU Denver has been, I got here basically after 1 year someplace else. So I've been here forever, and I've seen the university grow, and I have been the beneficiary of that. And to a really small degree, kind of a factor, a catalyst for that.
So let me give you my luck spiel, if you will.
Please.
I don't think it's luck at all. As hard as you've worked in your career, the books that you've written, the service you provided, for example, to RMPA, and I'm sure other organizations, that's not luck. That's effort. Bill McKeachie used to talk about luck, and I actually got to interview him once for the podcast. And I tried this gently, but I'm a closer friend with you, so I think I could be more blunt. Bill McKeachie didn't achieve things because of luck. It was tremendous hard work and collaboration and revision and learning from past mistakes and experiences. And I do think people sometimes have good fortune and the timing is right.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that much of your career or my career is attributable to luck.
We're dealing with like the nature nurture thing and the person situation thing. So clearly it's a combination of both. And I'm happy at this point to take any credit for any efforts that I've made. I'll take it. At the same time, I understand that there are factors, societal factors, demographic factors that made it easy for me to pursue with a lot of effort activities that I really wanted to pursue. I really, and so I tell people after 44 years, I got this job right where I wanted, but I've had a chair.
That's great.
For example, our chair, Peter Kaplan, is just in the process of stepping down after like 24 years as chair.
Wow.
That kind of stability and his leadership style was so wonderful, and I was able to take advantage of that for a long time. So I'll be happy to take whatever accolades you will give me, Eric.
Actually, honestly, Mitch, I think that's a growth thing for professionals to be able to do that, to be able to handle a compliment. And so Jane Hallinan, our dear friend Jane Hallinan, has schooled me on this over the years. Like, we'd be together and someone would give me a compliment, or she might be giving me a compliment, and I would do something I think very akin to what you would do. I would, I might have won an award from somebody, and I might say something like, well, clearly they scraped the bottom of the barrel. Which I think you might have said in an email to me about this invitation. and Jane very, very politely, in a friend, but as a mentor, said, Eric, don't do that. If I'm giving you a compliment or someone's giving you a compliment, you need just to accept that. When you diminish the compliment, you're diminishing the person giving the compliment. And I went, oh, holy moly, A, she's right because she's Jane Hallinan. And B, of course, I never intend to do that. And so now when someone gives me a compliment, I just have to bite my lip and say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And not say the 14 comebacks that I have in my head.
Right. And in spite of the fact that 13 of them are really funny.
Yeah. You and I are cut from that same cloth. If we can make a funny, we want to make a funny.
Exactly. Right. Seize the moment. We tell our students to take agency, right? Take ownership, to claim an education rather than receive one, and that their efforts pay off. And so it would make sense that, yes, I have expended effort in my career. At the same time, you mentioned Bill McKeachie and Jane Hallinan. And so I think, well, those are giants, and it's flattering to be named in the same sentence, in the same podcast as them. And so I always think of, what I've accomplished, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished.
Right.
At the same time, the question is always, what about that next step that I never took? Right.
Well, I think there's that, and I think a corollary to that is, someone says it more articulate than I do. The killer trait of comparison. I mean, academics and human beings in general, we tear ourselves apart oftentimes when we compare ourselves to others. You and I are in parts of our career where you're 40 years in, I'm 37 years in to my career, 34 at Boise State. And I can remember back to early days of my career where my colleagues were out in the hallway and they were having a great fun conversation and they were talking about collaborations, and I'm in my office working by myself, feeling bad because I wasn't having fun with the cool kids and wasn't getting invited to collaborate. And that comparison is, I don't want to say it's a root of all evil, but that social comparison that we do oftentimes tears us up.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm 45 years in, so I want credit for that other 5 years.
Yes, the promotion and tenure committee are going to need to know about those extra 5 years.
I wasn't a math major, but when we're talking about
clearly, I wasn't. I wasn't a listening major either.
Yeah, the comparisons I'm making, in addition to those of other people, is the comparison I'm making to where I am now to where I think I might have been in 45 years ago. And every day when I get off the bus and I look at the building and I say, all right, if 45 years ago when I was finishing graduate school, if somebody had told me this is where you're going to be and this is what you're going to be doing and this is what you would have accomplished, I would have said, I'll take it. No questions asked, immediately. And that helps me with the other comparisons.
See, I think you're doing a healthier comparison of what you could have been to what you were. I think a lot of us do the comparison. Like I look at our friends, right? I look at, all the things that Jane has led on a national basis. Yeah. I look at my buddy Regan Gurung, who hasn't hit the height of his career yet. And he's got 14 books coming out in the next 2 weeks, right? I mean, and the Dana Dunns and the Susan Nolans.
Yeah. Did you see his new video? He did a 6-minute video on study skills. And I watched it. 2 days ago and immediately assigned it, of course, to my first year seminar. But and the idea is that his enthusiasm jumped out and grabbed me off of the screen. And so, and that's another, to have been in the company of these folks.
Right. Well, and that reminds me of Steve Chu, who about 15 years ago made a series of 5 videos, which was unheard of a little bit for academics at the time. His university helped him, posted them on YouTube. And I
still assign those.
Yeah, they've got 4 million views.
Yeah.
4 million views from an academic in Alabama who's doing great work and sharing it publicly and freely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has been, again, another. I'm finding myself grateful a lot for where I am now, and part of that is these folks, Stephen among them, who are role models, not just about study skills and all of that stuff, but role models about how to be a colleague, how to be a human being.
Right. So, that generative spirit just amazes me sometimes. And that's when I have to tell myself, don't compare yourself to those people, who are, the ones I've mentioned are dear friends. Don't compare. Just you be you, Eric, and you do the things that you need to do.
Yeah. And you're in that group for me.
Well, okay. I'm going to try to thank you very much, Mitch.
You're welcome. We have influences in different ways, right? We do. So now we're talking about kind of ideographic versus nomothetic stuff, right? There's no formula.
There you go.
There's no formula for being an effective educator.
APA Publishing wants to give you 15% off your order. If you teach classes like counseling, clinical psychopathology, or multicultural psychology, then this is for you. APA Publishing has books that are written by experts that are grounded in evidence and really help teachers. I'll give you a couple of examples. There's a book they have right now called Helping Skills. It's in its 6th edition, and it gives students clear, practical frameworks for understanding and learning counseling techniques. It's perfect for hands-on practice and skill development. Here's another one. Cultural humility helps students build self-awareness and engage meaningfully across diverse identities and experiences. So head to apa.org because they want to give you 15% off your order today using code PS15. That's capital P, capital S, 15. Go check out APA Publishing.
And, there's a line in a play in a movie called I Never Sang for My Father, where Melvin Douglas, the old guy, says, I've lived my whole life so I can look any man in the eye and tell him to go to hell. And I'm proud of what I've accomplished, and I've done the job. I've earned my money, and there's other things I could have done. There's no question, but I'm really happy with what I'm doing.
If you're okay with, go ahead.
I could be writing a grant proposal instead of talking to you, but that's
I'm hoping talking to me is more pleasant, but who knows?
It's I don't
marginally
care.
More present.
I don't care what the judgment is. It's more and better than writing a grant proposal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. If you don't mind, I want to try to get some of the backstory. This is one of the fun parts about being part of a podcast. So, Mitch, here's my classic question. I don't ask it every interview, but I like to ask it. Growing up, was the conversation in your home, will you go to college, or was the conversation, what college will you go to?
Yeah, it was not, will you go to college? Definitely. What college? It may have been, what college can we afford?
Yeah.
But, and it was the thought of college was more salient than what that meant. And so I consider myself kind of a 1.5 gen student. My father went to college.
Okay.
He was an engineer. And so he was not educated in the liberal arts tradition. And my mother could have gone to college, except women didn't go to college in those days. And so she became a bookkeeper and worked, by the way, she worked as a bookkeeper, until she was 90 years old.
Wow.
And so, that's good.
Wait, did she keep working until she was 90 because she enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Because she was satisfied by it?
Yeah.
Huh. Who does that sound like in this podcast?
Well,
still working at 70.
Shot. Right. Yeah. I think, why am I still working? Why don't I take the American societal message and say, you have enough money to retire, then do it. And I tell my students now that if I retired now, month to month, I'd be pulling in about the same amount of money as I am now. So I'm not here for the money anymore. And so the purity of the motivation is a little bit better. And so, yeah, but my parents were both good role models in lots of ways. And one of them was working is part of the deal.
Yeah. The retirement piece, the stepping away, the money piece is certainly one of it. The health piece for a lot of people is part of it. But Mitch, can I tell you the other piece for me? And I probably talk too much about this, and I can always edit this out. For me, honestly, the thought of I plan to retire in 2 years. I plan to retire summer of 27. That's my plan that I have announced publicly, obviously. Or if I hadn't, I just did.
Right.
It's the identity piece that scares me the most. I've been a college professor for 37 years. That's who I am. Yes, I'm a father. Yes, I'm a husband. Yes, I do other things. I have other interests. But in my mind, I am a college professor. What will happen to me when I'm no longer that thing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, but I don't hear that coming out of you. You're in a good place.
Well, let me ask you this. I hear all the time, nobody ever died thinking I should have worked more.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's true. And, I think of, who I think of are people like artists who are performing. I think of Doc Cheatham, who's a trumpet player. I'm a trumpet player. So I think of Doc Cheatham, who's playing well into his 90s and beautiful, wonderful, right? Not as high and, for not as long as he had done before, but still creating beautiful music. And it's like, why, why bother doing that? And I think that there is something to be said for wanting to make a contribution. And I'm one of my elements is, am I making a contribution, that justifies staying? And so the question is, what's going to get me out? Health, I think, is going to be a big one. Like you said, the identity piece. I like doing education, and I like interacting with the folks. And so, what am I going to do? I'll probably continue to do some writing and consulting and whatever. So that's not going to change. The other factor that I see looming on the horizon that will take me out is AI.
Interesting. Okay, so I've got so many pins. We're going to come back to that. You were talking about your mom and dad. I want to go back to family for a minute. Any siblings?
I have 2 brothers.
And where are you in the age distribution?
I am the youngest. My older brother is like 3 years older than me, and my other older brother is 6 minutes older than I. So I'm
6 minutes older than you, or
than me.
So you're twins.
Yes, that was my way of introducing that topic.
Okay. All right. We're going to have we may not be able to do this all in an hour. You might have to come back for a part 2. So older brother and then twins, but you're the younger twin.
Yeah. And that made a difference. That was, I had
Tell me about that.
My mom, I was the youngest. And so and by the way, that 6 minutes was not easy for my mom. That was a long 6 minutes. Okay. So
I can't tell if you're making a joke or you're being serious.
No, I'm very serious because it was a traumatic event. She almost bled out. And so, so that 6 minutes was a big deal. And so being the youngest was something that I got. That was my label.
So I when I taught general psych years ago, I used to do a lecture on, birth order, which students loved, by the way, because we all have it and we can almost all relate to it. So do you think you got the last born characteristics, and your brother, your twin got the middle born characteristics?
I think so. I tell people, I managed to live my life and everything, but don't count on me in a crisis. Because when things get tough, I'm looking at other people like, all right, somebody take care of me. Take care of this.
In a family of 4, I'm the youngest, and so I understand that birth order position. And I had 2 older brothers and an older sister. So, and did your older brothers go to college as well?
My older brother did not. He tried it. Didn't like it, and became very successful doing other things. And my twin brother went to college, got a master's degree in music, and recently retired from being a full-time musician.
And you said your instrument was trumpet. What's his instrument?
He reeds, sax, flute, clarinet.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. So I want to go back just for a moment to high school, Mitch, because this is a fun conversation. Band geek for trumpet or drama or sports or debate club, chess club. What was Mitch?
Music all the way through.
And playing trumpet?
Yes. Yeah. So I was in band, orchestra, and my brother was a music geek as well. And so, and he was kind of much better and more committed and did more with that. But those are the people I hung out with, to the extent that I hung out with people. And that's how I got out of going to class. I would go into my band director, because I had a test in hygiene, I think it was. And so I go in the band director and say, "Hey, Mr. Miller, do you need any help this period?" He said, "Yeah, because, everybody needs help." So I would do that. And then he would write me a note. I'd take it to my teacher, and the teacher would say, "All right, you're going to miss the test. I say, yeah, I know. Isn't that tough? So I'll give you an A. Don't worry about it. So, I can play music. I can't, hygiene is a problem for me, but at least I can play music.
I think by the time I got to high school, hygiene was called home ec.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
See, it switched to health where I was.
Oh, I think it got rolled into our home ec curriculum.
Wow.
Psych Sessions is proud to partner with Macmillan Learning. At Macmillan Learning Psychology, content matters, and these days, digital content matters more than ever. Macmillan Learning's Achieve elevates interactive teaching and learning with an extraordinary range of online course content in a powerful yet easy-to-use platform. Interactive ebooks, innovative assessments, engaging videos and activities, helpful instructor resources. Achieve brings it all together and makes it easy for you to find what you need and what you want. See for yourself. Go to macmillanlearning.com/psych sessions for an introductory tour today. Macmillan's Achieve for Psychology, engaging every student, supporting every instructor, setting the new standard for teaching and learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So did mom or dad play an instrument?
My mom played piano early on, though, kind of before I came on the scene. And she was musically inclined. So whatever music ability we got from my mom. My dad said that he played the radio. That was his instrument.
Fair enough.
I got some of his musical ability, which means I can't carry a tune. So that's why I'm a psychologist.
If you're playing now, you can carry a tune.
Well, I can't sing it. I can play it.
But you can
I
play
can play it. But so I had enough skill to be able to play music, and I'm honored to play with. It's like, it's like just being with you guys, you and Regan and Jane. It's like I'm honored to be able to sit next to you and create, even though I have some limited skill. So,
Mitch, where did you go to undergrad?
Undergrad was Haverford College in Pennsylvania.
And when you got to Haverford, what was your major psychology?
It was. I was undecided at first, but I got an A in psychology. And part of the reason why I got an A in psychology is because I learned, I don't know how I got this, to go to the professor. There were 5 of us who got the lowest grades on the first test. So we went to the professor, basically prepared to say, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you teach us better? And he looked at us and he said, did you study together? And we looked at each other like, what? And so he spent time with us and talked about what we could do. And we got the 5 highest grades in the class the next time. Yeah. So I got really good teachers, and a lot of them were psych professors. So Doug Heath was one of my most influential professors, and he had written books. He wrote a book called Humanizing Schools, and he was the one that talked about who did the metacognition about why he was doing what he was doing in the classroom. And then Doug Davis was the guy who, taught me how to study, and Sid Perlow. I once said Sid Perlow was my social psych professor. And at a review session, I once said, I wrote about this in my blog. I said, what is this stupid study about $20 and $1? And he looked at me incredulous and like he was insulted. But he was professionally insulted, not personally insulted. And he took pains to explain to me very nicely. That's not a stupid study. That actually is a classic, in our field. And here's why. And so he cared about my understanding of it, even though I presented it in a way that could have turned a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things I learned.
Absolutely. And then from Haverford, where'd you go for your master's and doctorate?
University of
KU?
Kansas.
Yeah.
Yep, that's with the Jayhawk.
Again, what's with the reverse letters? Why not UK?
I remember when I was keeping files of all the schools that I was applying to. The file for KU, I had UK.
Yeah.
And yeah. And again, I have not done the historical investigation to find out how that.
We can ask a historian to dig into that. That'll be a separate podcast. Yeah.
But you know what? What? I just thought about this. On my diploma from Haverford, my degree is listed as AB because I don't know if it was in Latin or whatever. But so my degree is backwards as well.
Okay. All right. I see a trend here. One data point, 2 data points can be a trend. Yeah, absolutely. And Mitch, is it safe for me to assume that you got your PhD in social psychology?
No, clinical.
Okay. Well, let's back the truck up. How did you get there to that interest?
Being a therapist seemed like something that psychologists do, and it's really, so psychology in general was really fascinating. Clinical psychology, there were those who thought that a clinical psychology degree was the gold standard, so I thought I might be a therapist, and in fact. There was one day at the end of my graduate career where I got an offer to be a family therapist. And then I got an offer to be an assistant professor. And I thought, let's try this professoring thing for a year or two and see what happens. And I've been re-upping that year or two for a long time to try to get it right.
So it sounds like that is it fair to say you were never a practicing psychologist, or maybe you were?
I did a small private practice for a while.
Okay. Got your license and all the good stuff.
Yeah. Got my license. And then what happened was around 1990 was, I was seeing maybe 2 or 3 clients a week in addition to the professor gig. But what happened was I went away on sabbatical. I went to Washington, D.C. to be an APA Congressional Science Fellow. And so I had to kind of, give up the practice. Malpractice insurance that year just went through the roof. And they didn't prorate it. So I was going to have to pay the same amount as people who did full-time practice. And then I got an offer to do workshops for people who were preparing for licensure.
Sure.
And so that has really taken the place of my private practice.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we got this exactly, or I got it exactly right. First job out of grad school at CU Denver?
No, first job was a year at Central Missouri State University.
Central Missouri State University.
In Lawrenceburg, Missouri. It's now called the University of Central Missouri.
Okay.
And it was, once again, I've been really fortunate because I had a group of people there, kind of young professors who were really good and really supportive. And we were on a quarter system, but students got semester hour credit. So I was in class 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, because classes met. And so I learned how to create quickly and learned how to think. The problem was, as soon as I finished a class, I couldn't reflect on it. I had to say, what's coming up next? So I lost, I didn't have the opportunity to do as much reflection as I can do, now. But it was great training. It was like the Beatles playing in Liverpool, right? I don't think I got my 10,000 hours in, but I got enough hours that
it probably felt like it.
It sure did. Sometimes there was a whole day that felt like the 10,000, right? But then the next year I landed in Denver at CU Denver, and that's been like you say, nirvana.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember all my pins. One of the pins was about a bird. I'm going to skip that one.
Well, that was the Jayhawk. So we got to that.
Yeah. But the other pin was about what may push you out was AI.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I could talk a lot about it and how much I know about it. Because, things are changing, right? And what we educate for when we talk about backward design, we have to figure out what should students be able to do. And now writing papers, wordsmithing, crafting papers may not be where it's at. And the idea of having students write papers to demonstrate knowledge may not be where it's at, because the data suggests that students are not doing that. And so I've revamped my first year seminar to take out writing that could easily be done by AI and substitute it face-to-face communication among students and between students and me, and trying to figure out what it is that students are going to need in an age of AI, which keeps changing. Whenever anybody says, well, I make an assignment that's impervious to AI, I always add, for the moment, right? Because next week, there's going to be ChatGPT 2500 that will do that, right? So I'm trying to figure out what it is that underlies the skills that students are going to need in an age of AI, which we don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I think you've hit it right on the head. There's a couple things that pop out for me. First off, I've revamped many of my courses to have less original writing. Not research methods has original writing, which could certainly be AI could be used. And, my role right now is to try to teach students how to use it appropriately, there's an APA format about using AI. I mean, there are APA writing rules about that. Another piece of it for me is I don't yet understand what employers want. You're talking about the skills. This is the other side of that coin. If employers want original writing, then folks like you and me, we're going to have to work hard to figure that out. And you've got an alternative. And I know some professors are going back to blue books where, someone has to write in cursive or write, in front of the professor what their responses are to certain prompts. But if employers want our students, our graduates to have AI skills, then that's okay. I'd like to know that, but then I've got to get up on AI skills so I can teach it.
Right. And I'm not an expert on AI. So
me neither.
I have two principles I'm operating under right now. One is AI is not cheating. So I'm not going to police it.
Right.
And because I see professors, half the workshops I go to are about AI and how it's bad for students and, they shouldn't use it. And then the other half is how teachers can use AI to create syllabi and create assignments. And it's like, no, I don't think we can have it both ways. So that's one principle. It's not cheating. And the second principle is that we cannot allow AI to create disparities in education, because just about everything in education has created disparities.
Yes.
And we're right at the beginning. So we can hopefully head that off. And so, when I see paid versus unpaid versions of AI, it's like, no, that we can't have that. We can't start the patterns that higher education has been prone to.
Yeah, I have found AI to be an incredible tool in my work. I just got some responses Monday in class from my capstone students about what did they want me to talk about, when I'm talking to them in this capstone course. And I threw them all into AI and I said, organize these by themes. I've got 80 students in the class. And so it generated 9 themes. I'm going to go back to them today with my 9 themes and ask them, okay, rank order these for me. What are the most important things to talk about? I could have done that by hand, but it would have taken me an awfully long time. And there's not a lot of risk in, if AI got something wrong, something fatal is going to happen. So, it's a relatively low risk situation, but I appreciate also, Mitch, you mentioning the equity divide between haves and have-nots, and we've been needing to solve that for a long time.
Yeah. And the question then becomes that skill of taking a mass of ideas and making themes is now been offloaded, and the question is that a necessary skill anymore? if it is, then we're in big trouble if we offload too much of it.
Right.
If not, then we can focus on how do we rank order? What do we make of this? How do we get evidence for this? And so there's still plenty to be done.
And I think that I think a corollary skill is, okay, now ChatGPT has done some of the work for me. Is that accurate? I mean, so there has to be some expertise to look at that and go, oh, ChatGPT really messed up on this one category of responses, or ChatGPT was a good start. Now let someone with some expertise finish it off. And that's the piece that I wish we had more clarity from employers. The challenge of that is that, I think you've hinted at this, 5 years from now, employers will be wanting skill sets differently with ChatGPT or whatever the engine du jour is. And so I wrote a book chapter for a thing a while back, and it was about writing in psychology. And I gave it a good chunk of it to ChatGPT. And what I remember from that is that the ChatGPT detectors are not very good. Mm-hmm. And so our colleagues who are on that mission of no cheating, no using this, I think it was zerochatgpt.com. Somebody put in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution into it, and it came back 98% fabricated. I mean, 98% probability it came from ChatGPT.
Wow, it's given ChatGPT a lot of credit.
A lot of credit for a lot of creativity. So but good for you. You're not burying your head, and neither am I. And it's been like this forever, right? I can remember when SPSS came out. And it wasn't in a computer center. And people wondered, should we be having this machine calculate our t-tests for us? Right.
And handheld calculators and computer-generated assessment reports. And the issue with that was the same as you isolated, and that is you get the interpretation from the computer. That's a start. That's a draft. That's a consultation. But you got to put in the work, because you are ultimately responsible for what the report says. And so there are precedents for this. Yeah. And the other issue is that the older generation in each of those generations thought that the skills that they learned that could be offloaded were essential. So Doug Heath, for example, my professor, when he was taking statistics, I think at Harvard during his graduate program, he had to do a factor analysis by hand. And he basically said, you cannot understand factor analysis unless you do it by hand. Now we know, although that still may be true, I'm not sure, but we can still do factor analyses and do research with that, even though we don't have that background, right? So the question is, like, how much do we need to understand the hardware and software and programming? Right. The other issue that struck me in my conversations about AI is that we don't know what the data are that go in, and that can be a big problem.
Yeah, I used to teach statistical methods in a way where you did calculations by hand, but you could use a calculator. Right. And, do you really have to do a lot of long division before you understand the result of long division on your calculator? I've had students do two-way between groups analysis of variance by hand, and they slug through it. And then you show them SPSS, and, I think there are some principles there, but I think sometimes I'll say it this way, that I overplayed it in my teaching, that I thought the by hand grunt work was leading to some epiphany, and I'm not so sure it ever really did. I mean, I remember teaching students something about if you take the square root of -25 on your calculator and it gives you a -5, that calculator is making a mistake. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were little tricks like that, and I'm not so sure that I gave them any lasting knowledge about anything.
Education has to change, right? We have to figure out what's necessary, what got us, and we all have this bias. I'm sorry, I'm teaching critical thinking these days, so I can't say we all have this bias. A lot of educators have a bias that the way we learned it is the only way that it can be learned. and whether it's hand calculation or doing the analytic work on test data, assessment data, rather than letting the computer do it, and then moving beyond that. We all have, a lot of us have that bias about, oh yeah, it worked for me, so it's going to work for everybody.
Right.
But the problem is that you and I and others, who are doing the educating, we were all in the front of the class. We all would have benefited from any teaching strategy, right? Because that's where we were. So we need to, and I've spent a fair amount of time teaching first-year students, and they're different than I was. First of all, in almost every demographic, they're different than I was, and they're different in terms of. And then I think, students aren't as good as they used to be, right? Because they're not me. But then it's like, students, when I was going to school, were not me either. There were all these people in the back of the room who were not the exceptional students, who didn't get the attention, and who turned out perfectly well. And some of them are attorneys and accountants, and so we have to realize that the methods that worked for us because any method would work for us. And so that gives us a lot of freedom to look at other techniques, other methods, other strategies to do our work.
Yeah, my version of that is, if you think of our students in a normal curve distribution, our top 10% and your top 10%, they're going to thrive and survive no matter what. We could give them inaccurate advising and they would figure out what courses to take because they're just going to figure it out. They're in the top 10%.
I have some evidence for that. So
okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate the critical thinker comes through again. For me, I worry about the next 20%, the next 40%.
Yeah.
If they were given an opportunity, if they're given a little bit of attention, the top 10% are going to they're going to do 2 teaching assistantships, 3 research assistantships. They're going to be an intern and a peer mentor. And sometimes they kind of suck up the opportunities. But the next chunk of people in that distribution, could really benefit from a little bit of extra attention. And I make some efforts in my career to try to give them that extra attention. But I thinking about our conversation today, was there anything that you said to yourself, I want to make sure that I mention X. I'm now asking you to solve for X.
And the answer is no. The answer is this whole conversation has been icing on the cake. Okay. And the reason I said yes so unreluctantly was because, not that, I want to be on the podcast and, get the clicks, but because the opportunity to talk with you and the opportunity to share ideas with somebody who kind of sees the big picture and also can manipulate the details of it. These opportunities, you don't waste those. Right?
I sincerely appreciate that. I've got Jane Hallen in my head saying, don't make a joke here. Don't make a joke here. Take the compliment. Be serious.
All right, you're taking the compliment. Now make the joke.
No.
Right?
We're going to see you in Boise, Idaho in 2026.
Absolutely.
You're going to be at the Rocky Mountain Psychological Association in March. You're giving the past president's address. Am I getting that all correct?
You are. And guess what? The title of it is Artificial Ethics.
Ooh, AE.
So I'm just going to leave it at that and let people wonder about what that might be. And but I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, you've given some classic talks about ethics in psychology. You did an ACT invited address maybe 10 years ago or so?
It was. If you're talking about the one I'm remembering, it was 8 years ago. It's 2018.
8 years ago, where you got into the Hoffman report and all that good stuff. Yeah. This is your jam.
Right. So, and I'm going to prepare it. I'm going to prepare that talk without using ChatGPT or any other AI platform. So I tell my students that we're going to focus on real intelligence, not artificial intelligence.
It's a fine line though, because I'm a fan of Grammarly. I do a paid subscription to Grammarly, and it's AI. If we don't, no matter what anybody says, it is AI, and it's darn good. And as an old man with fat fingers, I'm making more typos than ever in my career now. And so if you want to be the purist, I respect that. But I got to admit, I'm a fan of these tools with important guardrails.
Yeah, and you said before, these are I was talking to somebody who said there was some AI program that came out with 3 + 3 = 9. And the platform had to be prompted to say, you want to take another look at that? And then the platform said, oh yeah, that's not right. It should be 6, right? But the AI, the machine has to be prompted to do the eyeball check, right? To say, wait a minute, it doesn't look right, And that maybe it should be called the wait a minute, effect or something like that. Wait a minute, what am I looking at here, right? And so, those guardrails are really important. And in terms of ethics, the necessity or the profit motive or those other factors kind of overshadow the ethical considerations. And the biggest time that's happened recently is with the pandemic. Because before the pandemic, we were agonizing over the ethics of teletherapy. And all of a sudden, like in March 2020, we stopped that discussion and said, all right, how are we going to do it? How are we going to train people to do it? And so AI, I think, is going to be the same thing or similar.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point about, if we're asking AI a question that has a finite answer, it better get those right. But I see it, and I guess my use of it is a little bit different. My personal or my professional use of it is a little bit different, where I'll ask it to organize data, qualitative data, which I suppose I could do in vivo. If I had the talent, I could do that. Or I ask it to, I've seen demos at teaching conferences where a professor teaching abnormal psych will say, create a persona of someone with bipolar disorder without using the words bipolar disorder in the persona. Give the symptoms and the characteristics, and then give them a name. And I've seen them do this live, and to me, it was amazing. Yeah. Now, I'm not a teacher of abnormal psych, so I can't verify how well did it get it right or not. But in terms of generating something for a class, it looked pretty remarkable.
See, now, I used to teach intro psych, and during the psychopathology section, I would have students get into groups and do exactly that.
Yeah.
Based on their reading, to create a description. And then I'd have them read the description and have people guess which diagnosis, right? How did it fit? So now I could do that much quicker.
Yeah. And it's adorable that you figured out a way to get students to read. And so that's a trick that I hope that you'll share at RMPA in 2026.
Yeah, that's that. There are some things that are eternal about teaching. Some things never change.
That's right. No matter what the age or the generation of the student.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Mitch, I want to wrap this up. I want to give you a chance to have the last word, so to speak, before I say thank you. Any last thoughts you want to share with our audience?
I just thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to just share some thoughts and enter into these thoughtful discussions that you have in your podcast. So just to be a part of that for an hour has been a pleasure.
I thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in March, IRL, in real life.
In 3 dimensions, absolutely.
In 3 dimensions. Thank you, Mitch.
You bet.